Okay, all right. I see Mr. Odumakin nodding his head in some form of disagreement in some of the issues on ground.
Yes.
The issue of a referendum, it seems to be very key for some Nigerians who are saying, look, if this conference, the resolution are passed on to the National Assembly, it does not meet the aspirations of Nigeria. Do you think most Nigerians believe so?
In fact, the referendum is the key thing.
About this conference?
About this conference.
So if there's no referendum,
it's like any other, it's like any other talk show.
All right, just hold the thought, Mr. Odumakin. Well, if you say the referendum is a key thing in this particular conference, well, I don't think those who are set up this conference are thinking in that line. Let's take a listen to the Secretary of the Government of the Federation about the issue of a resolution and how it will end up.
There are only very specific places where the Constitution provided for referendum. Very, very, like creation of state, like certain boundary adjustment, very few places. But that's not our business. As a government, we don't want to go into all that. If the conference make recommendations, then legally it should be followed the way it is permitted within our law. But it's not our business at all. The fact of the matter, as a lawyer, I will say that there is a constitution in place, there is sovereignty in place, there is a parliament in place, there is government in place. And all these are established under a constitution. And so the only provision made by that constitution is for amendment. So even if you want to replace the existing constitution with a new one, the National Assembly still need to meet to put one sentence: we hereby amend this constitution by replacing it with this one. There's no running away from it. And that's the only way legally possible. And nothing stops. If you want to go by a referendum, if you finish a referendum, you still come to do it. If you want to, whichever way you do it. Because the intent of the conference is not to create chaos. It's not also to overrule the order that is existing. It's to strengthen the order. It's not also to generate a situation whereby you say that there hadn't been a sovereign. There is the sovereignty of Nigeria is not negotiable.
All right. Well, that's it. The Secretary for the to the Government of the Federation, Mr. Pius Ayim, who is telling us that, look, we don't want to create chaos. Where the national conference is not to create chaos. But my guests here in the studio are saying that, look, the basis for a national conference, if at all, is a referendum. But it doesn't appear that that is a thinking of the federal government. Mr. Odumakin, before we took that.
Listening to the Secretary of Government, I'm sorry to say, shows some lack of understanding of basic issues about nationhood. For the Secretary of Government to tell us that sovereignty is in the National Assembly. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria. Even their 40 document that want to replace acknowledges that sovereignty lies beside the people of Nigeria, from whom the executive and the legislature derive the authorities. How can an agent be greater than his principal?
No, it didn't stop there.
I'm coming.
Who shall exercise such sovereignty?
Hold on. Let me finish. We are put them there for a tenure. It's like you give your house to an agent to manage for you. Are you saying that the manager has a greater authority? You cannot come back to say, I want to restructure this house? So what is it? Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria. This we have just leased some of our authorities to these people for 4 years. That is, let them dissolve the people and let another one. We can dissolve them and say we don't want them. They cannot dissolve the people. Exactly. So let people not think that we are under military jackboots. We are not. And be talking about that on us as like colonial masters. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria. If we say if we finish the conference and the people of Nigeria decide that want the referendum, there's nothing National Assembly can do.
No, but the convener of the national conference is saying, look, this is going to be passed under the National Assembly.
He has not said, he has not said this in this. He said the conference should make recommendations on what will happen to that outcome. And in this country, 1963, when the Republican Constitution was done in 1963, the National Assembly then repealed the 1960 Constitution and replaced it with the Republican Constitution. So what we want is total. Look, 1999 Constitution We knew how this constitution came about. Absalami promulgated Decree 24 of 1999 and said, "We the people of Nigeria." From the opening lines is a lie against itself. So what we need is a brand new.
I'm not a lawyer, but the little of it and the little relationship I have with lawyers, it appears that there's a lot of confusion about the resolution, which I think is germane in this whole issue. If we cannot resolve on how,
let me explain
give us an understanding, Mr.
Now look at where the confusion arises from. In the practice of law, we have different schools. The radical law school is saying, look, all you have to do, once you get there, you announce and the people will follow you. You may succeed like Castro did in Cuba. Remember, Castro is a lawyer. People followed him. He fought wars. They killed many of his people, eventually succeeded. And he has been holding on to power now through his brother for more than 50 years. It may even take a coup to take his brother out. As it is today in that country, the constitution made by Castro after he came to power is there. As for the 1963 constitution, you're only talking of the then parliament relying on 1960 constitution to proclaim us a republic. In other words, we were no longer going to be under the Queen. We had our own president. And that constitution says Nigeria shall be a republic and the president of Nigeria shall be Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. That's what that constitution states. Now, having been set aside, by the time we came back in 1979, it was still the same lie because they said, we the people, there was no referendum. There was a Constituent Assembly, Obasanjo tinkered with it. And over the years of the 1999 Constitution, the problem you have today is that you accepted the 1999 Constitution. And even this confab is being convoked pursuant to the president under the same 1999 Constitution.
Which is legal and
yes,
right.
Which is legal. In other words, if you want to go by the radical school of thought, believe me, even the president will be swept aside by just a mere proclamation. At the conference, you say, I represent the people, I hereby set aside the presidency, I hereby declare Nigeria this and that. That is the radical school, because you have the people behind you.
So that is the kind of chaos the SGF says we don't want.
And if the SGF had said anything contrary to this, we'll be committing a treasonable offense.
All right.
Hold on. The issue of different schools, we have the conservative law school, who believe that it is the conservative school of thought, that it is the law, you follow it, you don't go outside it. In other words, those who are saying go back to the National Assembly because the Constitution says it is the only body that can make laws, that can amend the Constitution, but can never set aside the Constitution. Because the moment it says we set aside the Constitution, then there is no Nigeria.
Okay, Mr. Nwazuruike, just a moment. I'll come to you, Mr. Yerima, Shettima, but let's take a moment to go on a commercial break. And when we return, there's still a lot of issues to discuss about the National Conference and its resolution. That's what we're talking about right after this break.